Tomorrow Never Knows with me, Bob Wilson, Sir Warren Brown, and our friend Phil Weathers. Today we give a big Beatles Kingdom welcome to our drummer extraordinaire and guest, Mr. Denny Seiwell. Denny was a founding member of Wings, a jazz player, and so many other things. So grab your socks and hose and pull because we have a show to knock your socks off, in large part due to our guest. And we just have to remember our sponsor, Beatles Magazine, is a publication with 370 plus million visitors in all their pages, read by thousands of fans around the world every day. Beatle News is updated daily, 24 hours, audio, video, photos, interviews, contests, additional materials, and more. So follow Beatles Magazine, the most complete online coverage, 24 hours a day and 8 days a week.
8 days a week.
All right to that. So welcome, Mr. Seiwell. Is it okay to call you Denny?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just making sure there. I hear your dad got you into drumming when you were about 5 years old, and that later led you into drumming for the Navy as well. Can you tell us about your start as a drummer and how that came about?
Yeah, sure. I came from a small town in Pennsylvania called Lehighton. It was close to Allentown, and it was in the foot of the Poconos. And my dad was a big band drummer, and he played with small groups around our hometown. And Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey actually started in Lansford, Pennsylvania, a few miles away. So when I was a youngin', 3 years old, my dad used to take me up to the Flagstaff. We used to play with these big band guys, and I would sit on the stage and just watch him play with the big band. So I always had a fondness in my heart for that. But when it came time to learn how to play, he enrolled me in the Boys Band Association, which is something my hometown had. Yeah, there were like 50 or 60 kids my age that would get a group lesson and get to play marches one night a week, and it was really wonderful for very little money. And there was a Professor Frohnheiser he was the director of the band and everything. And we'd march in parades and stuff like that. And every week we'd be rehearsing up at the band hall. They had a beautiful band hall, and it was really a wonderful thing that more towns should have something like this. Kept me out of trouble too. But it was really great, and that's how my whole career started. Pretty soon, when I was 13, there weren't a lot of people that played the drums in my area, and so little bands would get together. And when I was 13, I was working in the clubs, so illegally kind of thing. And so they gave me a union card when I was 13 rather than waiting till 16. Or was it 16 rather than 18? I'm not sure, but I got a union card rather young, and I was working, playing in the Moose Lodge and the Elks Clubs and VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars and stuff like that. Just playing little jobs with these much older guys, and that's the way my career started.
And then you went into the Navy, and you also drummed there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When I got out of high school, it was time to go to Vietnam. I mean, I didn't want to go to Vietnam, but I'd been hearing about the Navy School of Music the Navy had a School of Music in Washington, D.C. at the time. And if you passed the audition, you could get into that. It was an easy way of doing your service time without having to carry a weapon. So I went down. My folks arranged for me to have the audition. We drove down to Washington, D.C., and I took the audition. I passed it with flying colors. And so when I joined the Navy, all I had to do was boot camp, and then after that, I was in the band. I was guaranteed that was the only thing that I would do was play in Navy bands.
A smart man.
Yeah, it was very nice because I was 4 years, 1 month, 17 days, 11 hours, and 39 minutes in the Navy. But I was, in Washington, D.C. I went down to South America with a Cream of the Crop band, and we did goodwill tours and played, local radio and TV shows and park concerts, and gave away little kits to the poor people and to the kids and stuff. We'd give medical kits and all kinds of the U.S. information tour. And South America was great. I was stationed in Chicago in the Great Lakes for a year, which was excellent. Went all around the Midwest playing with a 60-piece concert ensemble and also a big band. And we'd play at parades, do all kinds of stuff. And then my last job in the Navy, I was stationed on the Admiral of the Sixth Fleet had a band in the south of France. That's where I met my wife. She didn't even know I was in the Navy. Because we all had civilian clothes, and we had rented a cheap apartment in Nice, France. And when the ship would leave to go on around the Mediterranean, the band would go with it, and then we'd play concerts wherever we went. But in home port, there was nothing for us to do, so we had time off to enjoy the French Riviera. Not bad.
Yeah, really. What's your wife's name, Denny?
It's Monique. And yeah, she was there through the whole Wings thing too.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah, we're married this year. It's 53 years.
Wow, that's good.
No, I just want to say thank you to our guest because when we started the show, through the magic of editing, we took out my faux pas. But
there you go.
I was so excited that I called Denny Seiwell Denny Sewell, and he was very gracious in correcting me. So I just wanted to say I've never been so nervous with a guest on this show before. Usually I'm cocky, but that's all out the window. But I was looking into you're being a session drummer in New York, and you played with so many big people, like more stars than shine in the evening sky. Can you tell us what that was like?
Oh, it was magic. I started. I was up in the Catskills for a little bit when I went into New York to start my career. The first thing I did was I got a job up in Brown's Hotel in the Catskills, for example. And I met some of the New York better players. They'd go up there and work for weekends or sometimes all week long. And, it was a way to start. And then I heard about Pennsylvania. The Poconos had 2 resorts over there, and I got a job at Mount Airy and Tamerman Lodge. So I was working with singer, dance team, comedian every night of the week, 6 nights a week anyway. It was great training, and I got to meet all of the better players in New York. Used to come up there to fill in the bands and stuff. And one of the fixers or contractor, Russ Savakis, came up one night. He was subbing for our regular bass player at Mount Airy, and he said, "Well, you're way too good for the mountains up here, the Poconos. Let's get you in the city, and I'll get you hooked into the recording work." So that was all I had to hear. So we just went in, and I got my first gig was at the Half Note, actually, which was Al Cohn and Zoot Sims, 2 of the fine jazz tenor players. And that gig didn't pay a lot of money, but it gave me a lot of exposure. So pretty soon I started getting a lot more of the recording work, TV commercials and radio jingles, and actually doing some records too. My first record was with jazz guys Kay Winding and J.J. Johnson. And that was great. And it just led to more things. My first rock record was with, what the heck's his name now? John Denver.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a sweet man, and we did a record for him. And then I just started doing a lot of sessions, sometimes 3 to 5 sessions a day. Start early in the morning and finish up late at night, and I thought it was magic. I just loved it because I was making good money, and every day I went to work, it was a challenge, and I loved it. And pretty soon, I became one of like the 10 or 12 hot guys doing all the best work in New York. When they needed a drummer, I was on that short list of people to call. And I'll be damned if McCartney doesn't come to town, and he gets a list from a friend of his in New York of the hot drummers and guitar players, actually. And he held these weird little auditions. We didn't know if we were meeting him, or we just got a call from our answering service saying that Barry Kornfeld, this friend of mine, he was kind of a folky. He said, "Barry would like to hire you for a demo session at such and such an address." And I just had something cancel out for that time. So I said, "Sure, I haven't seen Barry in a while." So I took it. And I went down to this, it was on, I think it was something like 43rd Street between 9th and 10th. It was kind of a dumpy neighborhood, actually dangerous. And I went down, and it was a brownstone building. It didn't look like there was a studio in it. So I went up to the front of the lobby, and there was just a guy sitting there at a desk. And it didn't look like there was electricity in the building even. I said, "Wow, this doesn't look right." I said, "Is there a studio?" He pointed to the basement. I said, "Oh, shit, I'm going to get mugged." So I go down in the basement. There's Paul and Linda sitting there. And so I said, "Hey, you're Paul McCartney." He goes, "Yeah, I know I'm Paul McCartney." I said, "What's up?" So he said, "Well, I'm looking at some drummers, and your name came up, and do you mind playing for me?" And I said, "Hell no, I don't mind playing for you." And we had a few laughs, and I said, "What do you want to hear?" So actually, I had a couple of tom-toms with me. They had rented Studio Instrument Rentals, SIR, put a kit down there in this a dirt floor basement of a brownstone. It was really funky, and I was saying, Jesus, there weren't even chairs or anything to sit on down there. And I said, "Do you mind if I set up some of my tom-toms?" He said, "No, that's fine. Go ahead." So I threw up my tom-toms, and I said, "What do you want to hear?" He said, "Just play some rock and roll music for me." So I said, "All right." So I made believe I was Ringo. I just channeled Ringo and went boom, bada, boom, bada, just went right into it, and he liked that. And he said, try this, play a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He tried different styles of music, and I just went along with him. And I thought he was going to play with me, and he said, "No, it's just you." So I said, "Well, okay, I get it." I didn't give him a lot of grief about that, playing by myself, Some of the other guys did. They said, "No, you want to hear me? Buy my records," But I was compliant, and he loved it. We had a few laughs, and I left. And I figured, I'm never going to get this job. I mean, the big guns are going to be called in for this, and one of those guys is going to get it. And I'll be damned if 3 or 4 days later I get a call from him. Not some management or anything. It's Paul. "Hello, this is Paul." I went, "Yeah, right. Who's screwing around here, He said, "No, it's for real. It's Paul. This is Paul. This is Paul. You played for me the other day. I'd like to hire you for the record." I went, "Holy shit."
Wow.
So I said, "Give me a second. Let me look at my book and see if I'm available." And that was just so I could jump up in the air and carry on a little bit. And that was that. A couple of days later, what's funny about that is Frank Ippolito, who owned the the pro drum shop in New York, he called me up. I was doing pretty well, doing a lot of sessions and stuff. And he said, "The Museum of Famous People in New York is going out of business, and they have Ringo's kit from the Shea Stadium concert. It's going to be auctioned off because they're closing, and I'd like to buy it. If I can get a decent price. I just want the snare drum, but I don't want the tom-toms and the bass drum. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Hell yeah, but I don't know if I have that kind of money." So anyway, he calls me up a day or two later, and he says, "I went to the auction. I got the kit, and I'll give you the 2 tom-toms and the bass drum for $300. I went, "Are you kidding me?"
Wow.
So I took the kit. And now Paul calls me, and he gives me the session time at CBS Studios. So I get down there, and I set up my drums. I'm in the drum booth and the little area that we set the drums in at the studio. So he comes in and he goes, "Hey, good to see you, man. You ready to start?" And he says, looks over, he says, "Those your drums?" And bang, he sees the Beatles drum set there. The front head and everything said Beatles. I thought he was going to lose it for a second, so it was great. It was a nice way to start.
Is that is that something that you still have, Danny?
No. I used them for the Ram album, and I gave them back to Frank. They weren't really great drums. Right. They were good. I made them sound good for the album, but I wanted a little bit more out of the instrument, and I kept the head, and I thought the head would be worth some money, and then I lost it one day. When I went looking for it, I couldn't find it in New York at my mom's house, and I was just looking everywhere and I lost it. And someone told me that if it was an original head, it'd be worth $2 million.
Oh.
I think the last one sold for $4 or $5 million.
No, that was yeah. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, bought Ringo's drum set that I used to play on up at Paul's farm in Scotland, and then separately he bought the Beatles head. Apparently there was only, I believe, I don't know for fact, but apparently there was only 7 of those original heads, and they're quite valuable.
Yes,
and this might have been one of them, but Ringo, I see Ringo, we're good friends. I see him every Monday just about here in LA. And I asked him about it, and he said, nah, I had that kit, the Shea Stadium kit, so I don't know what the hell they sold you. It was probably just a mock-up, and unless he was shit, he'll pull your legs, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the truth is, but anyway, I lost it. I don't know where the hell it is anyway, so...
Right.
So it was nice to have them and to play on them, but and then after that experience, we're doing Ram. Paul was going to he hired 3 drummers, me, Donald McDonald, and another drummer called Herb Lavelle. Just 2 great drummers, 2 of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to use me for a week, and then Donald for a week, and then Herb for a week. Well, after the first week, he just said, you know, I let those other guys go. We're making progress here. I really liked what we're getting. I'm going to ask you to do the whole record with me. And I was, as they say in England, I was well chuffed.
Yeah.
So I was really happy about that. And we did the whole album. And about 3 months after the album was released, he calls me up again and said, hey, you want to come over and take a vacation, bring your wife over and just hang out in Scotland for a little bit? And I said, yeah, I need a break anyway. So we went over to Scotland, and he said, I want to start a band. I miss my old band. Are you interested? And I said, count me in. Mm-hmm. And you know, so unfortunately, Hugh McCracken was also there with us. Hugh played on the Ram album. Paul loved Hugh's playing. And he was he was on tour with Gary Wright, and the tour ended, and he came up to Scotland. So Paul and Huey and I were there with our wives and stuff, and he offered the job to Hugh too. And Huey said, "Let me think about it." And overnight, we came back to the farm the next day, and he said, "I can't do it." And he never told him why. And I think it really hurt Paul. And I know it hurt him. Because how do you say no to Paul McCartney, for Christ's sake, you know?
Exactly.
But anyway, years later, maybe a couple of years ago, just before Huey died, I was with him in New York, and up at his apartment, and he told me this story. He said, you know, that time that Paul offered me the job to be in Wings, I said no. It's because I had a prior marriage, and I had 2 young kids in the States, and I just didn't want to miss them growing up by living in England. And so when I passed that information along to Paul, he was really happy to hear it, because he always wondered, what the hell was that about, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that you know, Paul's such a great father, and kids, I mean, they come first with Paul, people like Paul anyway. So anyway, it was a nice thing that I got to do just before Huey passed away.
All right, I'm going to hand over to my good friend, Phil Weathers.
Very good. Hey,
yeah.
Phil Weathers. Okay.
Yes.
Not you use me up, Withers.
Well,
hey, Phil.
Denny, it's certainly nice to get the opportunity to talk to you. And I know you've played with a lot of different people. I was going to ask you what it was like. I believe I read where you had the opportunity to play with the great James Brown. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
Oh, sure. It was just a session. I didn't know, you know, you go to work when you find out, when you get to the studio, you find out who you're working with. So I get a call from my answer service, radio registry, and they said, such and such a contractor booked you at A&R Studios, 48th Street at such and such a time. I said, okay, I accept the date. So you go, and you're all ready to start playing. And James Brown walks in, and he's producing Hank Ballard. That was the artist that he was producing. So Hank is out there in the studio with us, and we're putting a tune together. You know, we're working on getting a tune ready to record. And in between working, the band is screwing around, and we're just, you know, goofing off and playing grooves and stuff. And we get this hellacious groove going on that's quite nice, you know. And James is in the control room now, and he hears this groove, and he comes flying out of the control room into the studio. He goes over to the vocal booth, and he pulls Hank Ballard out. He goes, "Hank, this is too good for your record. This is going on my record." And so we cut a couple of tracks that day with James Brown and Hank Ballard, both in the booth singing. And that track was the one that I remember anyway was "Funky Side of Town," and it appeared on the Goodfoot album.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was quite a trip.
Well, I'm going to have to pull that out and listen to that.
Yeah.
One other question I wanted to ask you. I know you have records out, some CDs out with your trio. I believe you have "Reckless Abandon" and a newer one called "Boomerang."
That's it. Yep.
And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about that. And I know that on some of your tunes, you've kind of transformed some of the McCartney songs to, I guess, a jazz styling. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. On "Reckless Abandon," we did. Let me see. I don't have my phone handy, but I know we did. You know, when we got together, we were playing in a nightclub here in LA just for fun. You know, we just I found two of my favorite musicians on the planet: Joe Bagg, the organist, he plays the Hammond organ, and John Chiudini, the guitar player. And so we started fooling around at a buddy of mine's restaurant, and we'd play jazz there on a Wednesday night, and it was so good. I said, we better record this. So I set up my home studio here that we could record an album here. And one of the guys, John Chiudini, the guitar player, said, "Well, you know, you're best known for your work with McCartney. Why don't we take some of those songs that you recorded with Paul, and we'll turn them into jazz pieces and do it, treat it our way?" I went, "Okay, let's try it." So we did songs like "Coming Up." Wow. We do it as a samba, and we did "Bip Bop." We did. One of my favorites, we did the ballad, "Dear Friend."
Yes.
And then we did "Every Night I Want to Go Out." You know, what's that song called? "Every Night," I guess it's called. So we did "Every Night" as a bossa nova kind of a vibe. And Paul did this thing on Red Rose Speedway. I think he called it "Loop," "First Indian on the Moon." Mm-hmm. And we did a version of that. He thought that was jazz, the way we did it on the Red Rose Speedway album, but we really did a jazz treatment. It was more like a jazz waltz, and it was kind of clever. And so we did 4 or 5 of them, and that was on "Reckless Abandon." I think there's about 5 McCartney takeoffs on that record. Then the new record that came out just last year, on Quarter Valley Records. It's a new label out here in Los Angeles. I didn't want to go into do a whole bunch of McCartney music, so I thought, well, why not do the song that I'm best known for with Paul, and that was "Live and Let Die."
Right.
So we do a version of "Live and Let Die" on the Boomerang album. That's really it got a lot of attention. Everybody loves it. When we first did it, I sent a copy over to Paul, and he loved it. He just thought it was great.
Right.
So, I'm very happy with this group. And unfortunately, both of the guys are very busy, and I can't get them all the time when I get a call to go perform. So I'm kind of at the mercy of their schedules. When we get an opportunity to play somewhere and everybody's available, we just do it. And it's jazz, so we're not out there making a ton of money, but it's good for our hearts and our souls.
Well, thank you, Denny. I'm going to turn it over to Warren. I think Warren's got a couple questions for you.
All right.
All right, thank you, Phil. And first of all, Denny, I love the Ram album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time,
You're
and
not
it's
alone.
and it's very interesting that you played Ringo's drum on that album. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, Next time you see Ringo, you said you see him every Monday. Can you
Yeah.
please let him know about our show and maybe we can get him on?
Yeah. Don't hold your breath.
I'm not going. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I couldn't pass up asking that question.
Yeah.
So, please tell us about the members of the trio you're currently performing with. Do you have any dates booked that fans can come see you?
Yeah, I think we have a date in April at a place called Bogies, uh, Bogies in Westlake. It's a beautiful little room. It only seats about 100 people, but we're going to be doing a lot of those. We're going to be doing two sets of music, and the first set will be the McCartney tunes that we've revamped for our trio, and then the second set will be a lot of the new record performing that new records tunes. And at this point, we're really we're going through a lot of booking agents and managers. We're trying to find somebody to do that work for us. You know, so far I've just been doing everything myself, and I think it's really at that point where we have to start playing. We'd really like to play some of these jazz festivals around the country. There's 15, 20 of them in California alone, you know. So we have to find an agent and a manager that can help us procure that kind of work, so we don't have to play the same clubs. And I'm really thrilled with the trio, and I hope we can. We really need some help booking it.
Okay, I can do some advertising for you if you
Why
like.
not?
After the show, if you want, you can do a little 30-second commercial, or as long as you want, and I can post it out there for you.
Well, you know, if you send me an address to email something, I'll send you a one sheet which has some stuff, and there are some videos of the trio on Facebook and stuff. So maybe I can put together a little package that you could put on your next magazine, your next whatever.
Yeah, I put video to this show, so I can put it on video for you.
Oh, okay.
I believe you have Bob's email. You can just send it to him, and he can forward to me.
I'm not sure if I have Bob's email because he contacted me through Facebook Instant Messenger.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send me the email.
I just wanted to ask one question.
Yeah.
We can just put out. Would you like us to put a couple of songs from the new record on the show?
Sure.
Mix it in here?
I can put it in the background.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. Yeah. Especially Live and Let Die, and there's another song called something that would be appropriate. Let me think now.
Is Live and Let Die on the new one? I think that would knock people out.
Yeah. Live and Let Die's on Boomerang.
Wow.
And then maybe
if you could send the JPEGs over or some of the songs, we'll put them in the show if that's okay.
Pardon?
Can you send the songs over somehow, and we'll put them in the show, or take them from YouTube?
I don't know if they've got to be on YouTube, but I'll send them over for you.
Yeah,
I'll just send them to that email address. I'll email you 2 songs.
All right,
okay,
that's great.
And just one last thing, and it's back to Warren. Warren said he does commercials. Like, we had Ken Mansfield on, and he did a commercial after the show for his books. And Warren's done commercials that have gotten 10,000 hits because he has extensive followers on Facebook on the Beatles Kingdom page. So if you want to do a promotional commercial for a few minutes and plug the CD and plug any appearances, he's gotten as many as 10,000 hits on that because his graphic art is really something special. So I just wanted to mention it, and I give it back to him.
Okay, great, thanks.
Just let us know.
Thank you, Bulldog. I appreciate that. Wingspan. Can you tell us about your experience when Paul did that documentary?
I had no experience with that except that he called me up and said, I remember that you had a little video camera backstage during the day, and could we use some of that footage? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So I sent them the footage. They cleaned it up, digitized everything, and they used it in Wingspan. And they also used it on some of the live show. I've seen them on the live show, and there'd be some of our footage would be up there on big screens at the stage, you know. So
Yeah,
it was
cool.
that was my only portion or participation in Wingspan, but it was really nice. It was, you know, if you saw it, it was just Paul and his daughter sitting there reminiscing about you know, it was the best of all times.
Right.
I mean, we were in the trenches. We didn't have hotels booked. We didn't have concerts booked. With the first university tour, it was just go like a garage band, go out and have some fun. And I'll tell you something, I've been keeping an eye on this guy, Paul, for many years now. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have the kind of fun that we had in the very beginning, even though it was really rough.
Right.
Being there in the trenches was not the easiest way to do it, and we were always worried about being compared to the last time the audience saw the Beatles, and so rightly so. But we held our own, and we worked really hard to turn it into something that was. We were all proud of what the band had become by the time it broke up, you know.
Mm-hmm. Awesome band, one of the best of all times. I have to put the Beatles at number one, but I put Wings at number two. So
There you go.
great band, great songs. You can't beat it.
Right.
Um,
Well, thanks.
Danny, can you tell us about your website, any list of gigs that you have, where fans can go to purchase your CDs and other
Yeah.
memorabilia?
Good idea. Yeah, you can find me at www.dennyseiwell.com, DennySeiwell.com. And I'm going to just start, I have the 2 CDs up there. I've got a drum book that I've written called What Not to Play, A Drummer's Guide to Crafting a Drum Part. I've also got a DVD up there that I performed at a drum festival up in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where I was given a Legends Award, and we have a nice little DVD from that. So there's a lot of stuff on there, and I'm going to start. Some of the fans asked for signed drumsticks and signed used drum heads that I played them.
That would be
So
great.
I'm going to start putting them up on the site, as well as pictures of the old band pictures with Wings. There's an old Four Heads, the original band without Henry. There's that picture, and there's a picture of Paul and I doing some percussion overdubs on the Ram album. And there's another picture at Abbey Road where you can see Paul, Henry, and I during the actual recording of My Love.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's
Very
great.
nice.
All right. I'm going to hand it over to the Bulldog and let him bark at you for a minute here. And,
Yeah, we have to kind of wrap it up here. I got something pending here a little while, so let's think about start wrapping it up.
You got it, and I thank you for coming on, Denny.
My pleasure. You take care now.
And it's been great talking to you.
Likewise.
We're just glad you were here. You know, it certainly means a lot to us, so we thank you. And
Where are you guys? Where are you guys from? I mean, located.
I'm originally New York. Now I'm in Florida.
What part of?
Go
I
ahead.
grew up in Queens, right outside of Manhattan. So I've been to those.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I've been in those dingy buildings where you could be mugged.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, and I grew up in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And then I'm from North Carolina.
All right.
Carolina.
You need to come to the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm actually coming in May to Philadelphia to do Victor's Vault. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but I posted that on my website. Posted it on Facebook, I think. There's a band there. They're doing a weekend, May 1st and 2nd of celebrating Wings one night and Ram another night, and I'm going to do like an interview in the afternoon or the early evening. They have a nice theater, and it's Berlin, New Jersey, actually.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to, it's the guy that, RCA Victor, the guy that, RCA is still RCA, but Victor, they separated, and Victor has a label, Victor Records, and they have a vault where they put on concerts, and they have a band that's I'm just gonna play with this band, play a couple Wing songs and a couple of Ram songs each night, but cool. It should be fun.
That sounds like it. I'll have to check.
I'm not far from there, so I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, it should be showing up on my Facebook page. I just sent my social media guy the flyer for it. But once I get your email address, I'll make sure that you guys get that information too.
Yeah, I thank you very much for that.
Yeah, when does this show come out then?
I can probably get it out in a couple of days.
Well, there's no hurry, is it?
Right.
Warren goes through the whole video, and it takes him about, I guess, with this length, 7 hours, and he puts really beautiful graphic images throughout the whole video and photographs, and it times into what we're saying. So it's not just a regular one picture behind you. Warren's very talented.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, let me, like tomorrow's a pretty good day for me too. I'll try to find some of those videos and the videos from the trio, and I'll send a couple along that you can use or not use. But at least you'll have it. Oh, actually, you know what? Those videos are on YouTube. If you do Denny Seiwell Trio live on YouTube, there's some great black and white images there. They're the best ones we have of the trio, actually. So feel free to use them.
Are they copyrighted at all?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's good. Then I can use them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can.
All right. I will most certainly do that.
And if you'd like to, you could tape a commercial now for your CD if you want. We can edit it and put it out as a separate entity, because some of them have gotten up to 10,000 hits. Or if you'd like to come back on for 5 minutes one night in the next week or two and prepare a commercial, and if you wanted to go on video on Skype, Warren could turn it into a commercial that we could share on all our pages. Phil has a couple of pages too, and Warren has a following of I don't know how many thousands of people, but Beatles Kingdom, his thing, which is his deal, is very popular.
We also have Beatles Magazine too.
Right. I should probably think about it a little bit. Maybe do it later on in the week or early next week or something like that.
Think about what you want to do, but if you come on video, I think the fans would like that for a commercial to see you, and maybe you could hold up the CD.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be great.
CD or the vinyl. It comes in vinyl as well.
Both.
You can hold them both up. Beautiful. Yeah. All right, Denny. I thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and we'll be in touch. Then I'll take you up on that, though. We'll maybe in the next within a week anyway. I'd love to do that. The little ad for the trio CD and all that, and we'll take it from there.
All right. I thank you, my friend, and it was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Well, tonight Alex Trebek was busy, so I called my friend Phil Weathers because he's the next best thing to Alex Trebek. Some say even better. And Phil, being such a rock and roll Wings, Beatles, Monkeys, and all these different Herman's Hermits aficionado, is going to grill Warren and I with some hard questions with no liquid to drink under very hot lights. So, Phil, we hand over to you.
Okay, one of the
Don't helping us where you ask questions like, "What is Ringo's social security number backwards?" Give us a fighting chance.
I'll try to make these a little less difficult than that. All right, question number one on the Wings, Paul McCartney and Wings trivia. What year did the first Wings tour, Paul McCartney and Wings tour, come to America? And I'm looking for the year.
Well, Warren, would that be Wings Over America?
I would think so. And wasn't that 73 or 72?
It was, I think, for the bicentennial, so I'm thinking 75 or 76.
Ooh.
Because I know that they had in the middle of the vinyl album, I believe something was alluding to the bicentennial. So do you want to? I would guess they started in 75 and it went through 76, or it was 76. So what's your best guess?
All right, I'll go with the 76 because I didn't realize that until after you said it, but I'll agree with that.
Final answer.
Ding, ding, ding. That is absolutely correct.
It was all right, we got one.
6.
Take that, Brooks Calpin.
6, the first year that Paul McCartney and Wings toured America. Question number 2. All right, I know you guys, we talked a little bit about it earlier, Live and Let Die. I know both of you are familiar with that song. And it appeared it was the theme song for a movie. First part of the question is, what was the name of that movie? The second part is, what character was featured in that movie?
It was a James Bond movie, and I think it was Goldfinger, wasn't it?
No, it was called Live and Let Die.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
But I think Barbara Bach was in that one. Was she? No, she was in wait, was she in that? And it had Hervé. Did it have Hervé Villechaize, the Ricardo Montalban's sidekick on Fantasy Island? And it had the guy from the Abbott and Costello movies. The bad guy was one of the bad guys in it. Mark. Oh man, what was his name? I'm a mess tonight. It was Live and Let Die, 1973, James Bond. And who was the bad guy? Warren, take a guess.
I don't remember.
He was like over in like the Caribbean, and he was one of the nemesis was the guy who said, "Oh, have 7-Up with your lemon" or something like that. It's the best I can do.
You remember the movie better than me. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't remember it that well.
Well, it was, you guys did get it correct. It was the theme song for the movie Live and Let Die.
Yeah,
and
right.
Of course, 007 was the character. Mm-hmm. And you're all right. Barbara Bach, I believe, did appear in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yay! Brooke Calpin, take that.
Two for two. Job, dog.
If it was Brooke giving the questions instead of 007, we'd have to say 700, and then somehow he would still say it's wrong. But nonetheless, let's move on while we're on a roll.
All right, number 3.
Paul would say, "Let me roll it to you."
Yeah, let me roll it. Denny Lane. Denny Lane was a guitarist in Wings, and I'd like to know what other band he was in, I guess, before he joined and became a member of Wings. Denny Lane.
You got me.
Denny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. And he better go now with the Moody Blues.
I think I heard that before, and
He
I'm
was with the
gonna
Moody Blues.
I'm gonna agree with that.
You're going to agree with the Moody Blues.
Right.
Okay, you guys are 3 for 3. It was the Moody Blues.
Yeah,
All right, we should stop now while we're ahead.
I just heard that the other day too. So
I'm saying Go Now. That was a
And they
song.
sang that on the Wings tour, right? They sang "Go Now," and I think it might have even was it on the Wings Over America album?
yeah, yes,
Correct. I believe you are correct, Bob. Go
yeah,
Now.
I know more about Wings than the Beatles, it appears.
yeah. It sounds like it.
Don't agree with me too fast. Okay.
All right, question number 4. What was the name of Paul's first solo album?
McCartney.
Do, 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 do. Um, um, oh,
McCartney.
um, the hell was that? Was that with the picture of them sitting on the tree branch over the lake and all that?
That was the first Wings album, but the
Oh,
first McCartney album would be McCartney, which came out at the same time as Let It Be. And Paul almost punched Ringo out when they talked about changing the date.
yes, that's correct.
So are you
Final
saying that
answer.
your final answer is McCartney?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
It is McCartney. That's correct. 4 for 4. And I believe, didn't Paul play most of the, I believe I've read where he played most of the instrumentation.
And he did everything as far as I know.
That's what I was thinking. So I guess that album was before the formation of
Wings. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I liked it when Warren during the show asked and plugged to get Ringo on.
Yeah, that was great.
Hey, look, I couldn't pass up that opportunity.
That was some chutzpah. All right, I like it. I like it.
Well, do you guys have a question you would like to ask?
To ask of you?
Yes.
All right. What record was recorded in New Orleans by Paul McCartney and Wings? And Paul had invited John to come down to the sessions and write with him and play with him.
Oh gosh, I should know that.
But John didn't come. And I'll give you a clue. It's all right tonight.
It's all right tonight.
Follow the Stars.
Now, are you asking for an individual song or album?
Just
the song.
The name of the album was one of the songs.
Oh gosh, I can see the album.
Another song on the album was Rock Show.
Oh, Venus and Mars?
Venus and Mars.
Venus and Mars. I knew I could see the album cover, but I couldn't see the name. Venus and Mars. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and a question I meant to, and I don't know if I should say this here, but was a question I meant to ask Denny was before he said he had to go. Did he appear in I believe it was 1973, in the documentary television special McCartney?
I believe he did. That was the earliest version of Wings.
Mm-hmm.
So he did appear in that.
Yeah, it opened up with Big Barn Bed. I remember that. And,
right.
I remember, and he also drummed on "Live and Let Die," and that was one of the big songs in that James Paul McCartney special. So I would say Denny Seiwell, not Denny Seiwell, was indeed on the television special.
I'm gonna have to go back and look that up and watch.
Could probably watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'd like to see his performance in that. I know I've seen it before, but it's been a while.
All right, Phil, another question for you and Warren.
Okay.
Ooh, let's see. What was the record that Wings was going to tour with, like back up with a tour, when Paul went to Japan and tried to smuggle a huge amount of weed in his carry-on case of luggage? In Japan, they were gonna play songs, especially to feature their new album when he got busted in Japan. What record was that?
Was that 1972?
No, when he got busted for weed, I guess that was a few times. This would be the bust in approximately 1979.
I was going to say that would have been later on. Tug of War?
No, that was later, but it's a Wings album, and I'll give you a clue. The yoke is on me.
Oh, back to the egg.
Yes, correct. Warren.
Yeah, back to the egg.
Okay, here's another one for you guys. You ready?
Yes.
Name 3 songs that were put out by Ringo. 3, there's more than 3, but 3 songs where Ringo sings the lead and Paul came on and played on those songs with Ringo.
Phil, you ought to get this one.
Why should I get it, Warren?
Because you're the Ringo expert.
Just putting you on the spot.
3 songs that Ringo sang lead on.
That were solo album songs, and Paul came on and played on those songs.
Well,
And
2
sometimes sang backing vocals.
2 of them came off the album Ringo.
That's good. Name them, though. Everybody's always bartering back and forth. The actual title. Hmm?
6 o'clock?
Correct. That's one.
Okay. What about Photograph?
You got me with that one. He wrote it with George, but maybe the 3 of them played on it, so I'd have to say we'd give you credit for that.
Yes. I think all 3 of them played on it.
Okay, that was also from the Ringo album.
So there's a song from another album too?
There's a few. One is one smaller known one is one of my favorite songs. And it came out and it rhymes with that's too much of a clue. There was one when he came out, I don't want to hum it. Is 6 o'clock, Photograph. What else was on the Ringo album that Paul played on? It was a big hit. A birthday song. A song about a birthday. A highlight in a girl's life is this birthday. You're beautiful in your mind.
You're 16.
You're 16. That's right. That Paul was on that one with Ringo for sure.
Yeah, I should have known that one. I like that song.
On the spot here, the hot lights with no liquid. Under the bright lights of the Alex Trebek, interrogation. Did you ever hear the song Ringo and Paul put out called "Walk with Me"?
Yes.
When I walk with you, when I talk with you. That's one of my favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? You like that one?
Yeah, I do. Ringo's put some good records.
Yes, he has.
What's your favorite solo album by Ringo?
Are you asking me or Warren?
Both.
Well, I'll tell you what. I like the last one he put out. We're on the road again. Is that the name of it? Well, I forgot the name of it. But that song's on there. But I kind of like that album. But my favorite Ringo album's got to be Ringo.
That's my favorite solo album. Out of all the solo albums, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that too.
Now, how about naming 3 Paul songs that were solo songs that Ringo played on?
You on to me about asking some tough questions.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You should have asked me that before I started. I made no promises. 3 songs Ringo played on. One hint was Ringo was in the film Give My Regards to Broad Street, drumming on many songs with Paul. They played some Beatles songs. They played some of Paul's solo songs. On one song, Ringo said, "I'll only play the brushes," and he was looking for the brushes. That was part of the joke.
Was Here, There, and Everywhere one?
Not Such a Anymore. Not Such a Bad Boy. That was a good song. I thought that was a cool song. What did you think?
I really liked that. And there was another one called No Value or Value.
You got 2 right there. You got 2 right off the bat.
Yeah,
Bad Boy and No Value. Those are great songs. I think those were cool.
they are. Those are two of my favorites on there. I also like the title song, "Give My Regards to Broad Street." I liked it.
I didn't even know there was a title song. How did that one go? How did that one go?
There wasn't a title song.
Oh, it confused me. I was like, man, something caught up with me. I felt my memory totally eroded.
He released one as a single, I think.
In the studio, Ringo went for brushes, and he played. I think the song was from Revolver. It was a song that you could almost get away with just playing on the piano, with no other instruments if you wanted to. You want her, you need her, and yet you don't believe her when she says, "Our love is gone." You think she needs you.
I'm trying to sing it.
And in her eyes you see nothing, no sign of love behind the years. Cried for
No one.
For no one. Ding, 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 ding. So we did pretty good. That was good.
Thank you, Warren.
Yeah, no problem.
Which Paul McCartney album with Wings was recorded in Laos?
Band on the Run.
Correct. Band on the Run. Very
There
good.
you
Phil
go.
on it. Now, what had happened as Band on the Run was being released? What happened to the band, and we think about the cover of that album, to the members of Wings before Band on the Run started?
They were robbed.
Yeah, tell that story. That's good.
I did hear that too.
It's just I don't know. I don't remember all the details, Bob, but it seems like they were just
screaming, "That's Beatle Paul! That's Beatle Paul! Don't kill him!" or something to that effect. Thank God they did something to that, and they stole some tapes that he had made in the studio. But what else is different about the album cover? How many members of Wings are on it?
Well, isn't Christopher Lee? Isn't he on there?
Well, there's a bunch of celebrities, like true, but
James
how many actual members of Wings were on the album?
Mm-hmm.
Who's on the cover? We know we got Paul.
Paul. And I was going to say too, Linda's on there, ain't she?
Right. So you got Linda,
Denny Lane,
and Denny Lane. Those are the three. So I guess that was the point that Wings sort of pared down to three people. Maybe the other people didn't want to run over to Laos with them. And maybe they had a good reason. They said it was a tough time over there.
Yeah.
But I think that was some incredible guest we had on. I was very nervous. I mispronounced his name. But the second time I've been starstruck. I was starstruck with DJ Fontana once. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
That was fun. I think he was really good.
Yeah, I like talking to him too. I like to talk to him a little longer.
There you go. Well, you'll record his commercial, and he'll tell everybody about his new CD called Boomerang. Yeah. So be on the lookout for Boomerang. And on his site, I know you can get autographed things like pictures and CDs and all that good stuff. So, hey, do you guys want to carry on our tradition and we can sing out with the end?
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
So I'll start. Phil takes the middle, and Warren will close us out.
Start barking, Bulldog.
We thank you, Denny Seiwell, for coming on the show and making our night. It was unforgettable and a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
And in the end,
the love you take
is equal to the love you make. Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she doesn't have a lot to say. Hit it, Bulldog.
Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl, but she changes from day to day.
For one.
I want to tell her that I love her a lot.
But
Let's start over. Mark, go ahead.
One. Sorry.
That's all right. We're having fun, Phil. That's all. We're good Beatle fans, I swear.